G'day everyone, welcome to episode 4. Last episode, episode 3, I did a fairly long feature on how I do my macro focus stacking. So what I thought I would do today is concentrate a bit more on the actual stacking process, taking the images, and show you two different types of the processes that you can use. One is using the focus rail, and the second one is using the camera in a static position, just using the LCD screen on the back of your camera to focus. I'll also show you, once we get into the computer, how to use Photoshop to auto align and stack the images if you don't have Helicon Focus like I do. Either program works well, but I do find that Helicon Focus is slightly better. With the focus stacking, I'll also be using long exposure. The reason for that is that I find that if I use an artificial light source like strobe or lighting, I have an issue where if you get highlights or blown out parts of the image, as you stack, those highlights or overexposures become compounded. So at the end of the stacking process, when you stack all the images together, it's you get very overexposed areas within your composition. So what I like to do is underexpose by one stop, and I tend to find that works perfect for once I've finished the stacking process. It's then not as hard to do your post-processing. Now our subject for today is a snail shell that I found out in the garden, but you can use any subject you want. You just have to make sure that there is absolutely no movement of the subject during the stacking process. There are a number of other ways of doing focus stacking without having to use the camera on a tripod or focus rails. You can manually do it, where you take a photo of the image and slowly move into the image, but again you have to be very careful that you maintain the same focus plane all the way through, or the line of focus, or the line of movement, whichever you want to call it, and work your way through without any major movement. Now that way is a lot harder. Well, that's enough of the gibbering. What I'll do now is show you my setup, and we'll go on from there. Okay, so here is my setup. I have a Canon 450D with a Tamron 90mm f2.8 macro lens attached to the front. That sits atop a Velbon slide rails, sits on top of a ball head and on a tabletop tripod. In front of it you can see the snail shell sitting on top of a piece of wood inside the studio box that I've made for it. Now, the reason I use this box, one, it protects from the wind, so it keeps all the movement at bay. It also prevents excessive light from coming in that I may not want. And for lighting, I simply have a window on the left hand side that's putting light in onto the white of the roof, and or the ceiling I should say, and that reflects down into the box. And then I also have a LED light for the room light, which is on, and that's to the right. So both of those are putting light into the box. And then on the bottom base there you can see I have some white paper, and then some white paper underneath the snail shell. Sometimes this is quite helpful in reflecting light up, but in this case it won't make much of a difference. As I said, the subject is a snail shell that I found, and I'll show you how now I start taking the photo. Okay, once the camera's turned on, you can see just in the back there a small image of the shell. What we need to do is find the closest part of the subject to the lens, and that is the initial part that we must focus in to make sure it's sharp. Now in this case it's going to be the bottom part of the shell down here that is close to the subject, close to the lens I should say. So what we'll do is we'll bring the focal square down, and we'll do a very bold focus adjustment into that, and that comes up nice and sharp. Then we will magnify into the subject and make sure it's sharp all the way through. So that's quite good there. And then we go back. So all right, so the subject's now in focus and sharp at the very closest point to the lens, whereas the rest of the background will be out of focus. Once I've completed these images, I'll put up images showing you the process as we work through, so the first, third and sixth and ninth image, etc. as we go through, and you'll see how much of the subject's in and out of focus. Okay, I'll now take a light reading, and I'm underexposing by 1 stop, so at the moment I have 3.2 seconds at f8 ISO 100. I'm happy with that, and I'll take the first image. Once that's done, I check the back of the screen, it looks good, and then I move the focus rail in by about a half a turn. I'll then take a second image. And while that's doing its bit, I'm planning to move the second one. So now the second image is up, I check that, yes, it looks good. There's been no movement. Take the third image. And I work my way through. So what I'll do now is I'll continue on the process, and I'll get back to you once I've completed. Okay, welcome back. I've taken approximately 10 images and worked my way through. So what I do once I've completed the images, I put my hand in front of the lens so it blocks out anything. I take an exposure and take a shot. And what that does to me is signifies that everything before that handprint is for that set of compositions. So I'll reset the focus rail, and what we'll do now is we'll do the method where we use the back of the LCD screen to work our way through. Okay, welcome back. I'm all ready to set up to take my next lot of exposures. Now, if you can see on the back of the screen, you can see the focusing square where it is. That's the first point that I'm going to focus into. So what I do is once I've got the initial subject focus and sharp, I then magnify in and I make any slight adjustments on the camera. Once you get it sharp, move it backwards and forwards a little bit, and it'll come in and out of focus. And you'll know that you've got the sharpest point. Okay, that seems to be about the sharpest point. You can go in a bit more magnification, and that may help. Okay, so now that's the first image. So what I'll do is I'll take that image. Again, it's 3.2 seconds, f8 at ISO 100, so the settings haven't changed. So I'll take that shot. The image comes up on the back of the screen, we check it, make sure everything's all right. Then the next thing I do is I move the focus square to another part of the image. And what you're trying to do is work your way through the image, bring up the magnification again, check sharpness, bring it into focus, and then I'll take that image. Okay, check it again. This time we move the focus pane up to here, magnify in, get it nice and sharp, and take the shot. Okay, once we've done that, we check the image on the back of the screen, and it looks good. And we'll now move a bit further up into the image to the back, and we bring the back into focus. We take that shot. And again, once I get this up on screen and I show you, you'll see how I work each individually image comes in and out of the focal plane. Okay, now I'm going to go further up and to the back, so I'm now getting almost to the back of the image in, the subject I should say in. Make sure that that's as sharp as I can get it. Take that shot. Check the image on the back of the screen. It's looking good. What I'll then do is I'll bring in the focal square down and I'll go to the left a bit and I'll bring some of this into sharpness. When you're doing this method, it's just a matter of working in and out and around the image and try and get as much images as you can with everything in focus. Makes it a lot easier for when it's got to do its stack. So we take that one again and away we go. Now, I'll move this one all the way across and up to the back, magnify in and to the back. We'll take that one. And I think that should do for this one. I think we've done about eight images there, whereas before I think we did 10, but that'll be enough for what we need. So I'll pause this here now and we'll get set up on the computer. The two compositions that I've done into Lightroom. So first of all, what I'll do is I will select the first lot of compositions and I'll use Helicon Focus to stack that. So here we go. Go down to Export, Helicon Focus, and it'll take a few seconds to load in. Cancel that. Okay, once it's loaded into Helicon Focus, I click on Render, and it goes through and renders all the images together. We then click on Saving. I'll go over to Save. I'll rename it so I know what my subject will be. I'll just call this macro-01. Click on Save. And it'll now tell me to exit out of that. And the image is brought up here. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll bring up the first image that we took and I'll put that up on screen now. And from that you can see how we worked our way, or what the first image looked like, and then we worked our way through it. I'll bring up image number 3. So this is what image number 3 looked like. As you can see, the focus has shifted through it. I'll bring up image number 6, and you can see again how much we've moved away through it. Now image number 9. And again, you can see what is in focus and what isn't, and how we've moved the focal plane through the image. And finally, what I'll do now is bring up the final image that was stacked, and I have edited it. So this is the final image. What we'll do now is the second lot of composition I took was the one where I focused all the way through the image using the camera in a static position and just using the LCD screen on the back. What I'll do with this one to stack it, I'll use Photoshop. So to do it in Photoshop, what we do is highlight images that we need, right click, go down to edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. So this will bring up Photoshop. It'll load it into Photoshop by layers for us. And I think there's only 6 or 7 images, so 6 or 7 layers, so it shouldn't take terribly long to do. The thing to remember is the more images or more layers you're going to have, the longer that this process takes. But you just got to sit back, let it do its stuff, and it will bring it all up. Alright, so once all the images have been brought in as layers, select all the images on the right hand side in the layers, go over to edit, come down to auto align layers, just keep it on auto and select OK. Again, this will take a few seconds to do. The more images or more layers you have, the longer it will take, but once it's finished, you'll get a shot like this. You'll see some white dotted lines around the edge. That just means that the camera, there is some movement during this process, and that's picked it up. What we'll do is we leave that for the time being. We'll fix that up at the end. We go back over to edit, come down to auto blend layers, and in auto blend layers we click stack images, and then the 2 check boxes down the bottom I always tick, so seamless tones and colours and content and width fill transparent areas, and we just go over to OK, click on OK, and then it will take a few seconds to do its bit here to stack the images. Once again, as with earlier on aligning the images, the more images you have, the longer it takes. Once it's finished, you'll have one image all saved, and we just go up to layer and flatten image, and now we have the one image. And to get rid of those white lines and that around the edge, we'll do a crop. So I just come across here, bring it in a little. It doesn't have to come in much, just a little bit. And when I'm happy with that, I just click OK, and then we'll just close this down and bring it back into Lightroom. And then once we're back in Lightroom, we can open that image up and edit it. So again, as with before, I'll show you the final edit at the end. But what I'll do now is, again, I'll put up image 1. So this is what image 1 looked like when we did the first initial focus. Now we'll do image 3. So again, you can see that I've moved through the image slightly and have made some adjustments to it and got it in focus. Image 6. Again, you can see that I have made some adjustments and what's in focus and what isn't. And image 9, again you can see what's been made into focus and what hasn't. And now the final image. There you go. I hope you got something out of that. It's not too hard, it just takes a little bit of time and okay, so that's how I do my macro focus stacking, using either the slide rail or manually using just the back of the LCD screen. Depending on the subject, etc., you can do as many or as little stacking images as you want. It's purely up to you. If you don't have a focus rail, you can see it's quite easy just to do it on the back of the camera. There are other ways of doing it as well. You can hand hold it, but in the scenario that we were doing, it's a lot easier to have it fixed. But if you're out in the wild and you've just got your camera in your hand, you can do a very similar process where you focus on the front of the image and take the shot and then move slowly in and in and in and in, taking images each time. The biggest thing is you've got to make sure that there's no movement between subjects. Otherwise it becomes a bit of an issue to fix it up in post-processing. However, that can be done. All you've got to do is go through, find out which image or layer was out, and remove that. Alright, if you have any comments or questions, just post them below and I'll see what I can do for you. As per normal, if you like this video, please give me a like. I'd appreciate it too if you want to subscribe. Keep up to date with all the stuff that I'm doing, and hopefully once all this COVID virus zombie apocalypse thing that's going on around the world will be finished shortly, and we'll be able to get out there and do a lot more different styles of photography. I'm really looking forward to doing some landscape photography. I particularly want to get out into the bush and do some really nice landscape photography out in the granite rocks and that out in the wheat belt here in Western Australia. So if you're into landscape photography, please keep an eye on that. I will be doing some drone photography very shortly once I get my drone back. It's in for a bit of a service and a repair, so once that's back we'll do a video on some drone photography in the local area. And yeah, we'll just keep going. We're coming into our winter now, so the days are getting shorter, so it means I don't have to get up as early to do sunrises. And I have a few things planned with that, some long exposures, some nightscapes, etc. So please, by subscribing to my channel, you can follow my adventures as I continue this process. Thanks very much, and I'll catch you later. Oh, before I go, please check out my website, www.westaustralianimages.com. I'll put a link up to it in the description below. Have a look at the website. Once this apocalypse is over, I'm going to be conducting short tours around Perth, Rockingham, Fremantle, as well as longer tours out into the bush. So if you want to come and see where I go and the adventures that I get on, have a look at them and see what you think. Thanks very much. Catch you later.